Is English an African dialect? Since most black people speak English, let us look at the shocking source of most English words. We always say that African ancestors established the concept of God. Since we speak like that, and we are correct to say so, that black African ancestors formulated the concepts of the creator, now commonly called God, and proceeded to define humans as Bantus. Could Africa be the foundation of hundreds of words that connote life, human beings, and other things and sacred things in other languages? Welcome to Life Spirit of Amen, KhamithiHiburuEthics. This is Priest Teacher Rabbi LM Tumizu. Let us consider the alphabet. What is the origin of the alphabet? Who made up the alphabet? What is the name of the first written language? How did the alphabet start? You can see here an evolving chart of the alphabet. You can see that the original one has its name, the hieroglyphic. Then there is the Proto-Semitic, which was the simplification of the hieroglyphic. Then you have got what they call the Phoenician and Paleo-Hebrew, which was also borrowed from the hieroglyphic. And then we have got early Greek, and then Greek, and then Latin, and then modern Hebrew today, which is the square Hebrew. Therefore, to quickly answer this, we realize that the original alphabet was developed by black African scholars in ancient Egypt. They based it on pictographic thought. This was based on old ideas that they had developed and borrowed and received from their ancestral source. Others say it was a gift from the divine. Therefore, they call this language Meju Nature, which means the sacred or divine words of the eternal. Others borrowed this and used their own specific symbols in specific countries, as shown on the graph, to denote and use the alphabet. The ancient Egyptian hieroglyphic is the oldest writing system in the world. Others are now coming up with Sumeria and many other places. You can see here, this is the biconsonantal, which means it's a symbol that represents two letters or symbols. And this is the single, and this is the triconsonantal, which means one symbol represents three words or three letters. Now, did African ancestors formulate the concept of languages too? Contemporary education teaches that the letters of the alphabet are pictures that denote, represent, as well as mimic the sounds that emanate from human vocal organs. Astonishingly, in shape, in figures and form, they are more than mere sheer onomatopoetic imitations. Onomatopoetic are words whose phonetic pronunciation is a derivative of the sound or the noise or the action designated to such an entity, such as ooze for liquid and hiss for hot metal going into water, or buzz for an insect, or bang for an explosion. This infers also to the use of such words for poetic or rhetorical effects. Now let's define the basic ancient coding systems of ideas, which has given us the modern technological systems. We see the first one these are pictographs, and you see this is a step or automated steps going up. This is a pictograph for a child, and these are ideograms, and these are all slightly different, as well as logograms coming from Egypt, and also phonogram coming from ancient Egypt. The alphabet is actually a system or a system of codes that captures, informs, and shapes the real intended picture of a basic idea. Now, a logogram is a sign that can stand for a word by itself, mostly without phonographs. Some logograms, however, can stand for several different etymologically unrelated words. a transliteration, look at the original meaning of African alphabet. Now, this is the letter A. You see, we shall explain it a little bit. Consider the capital letter A. It is a great symbol for primordial unison. Here, the one, the letter or the numeral 1 is split apart into a duality, means into two strokes or strikes, where the inspired dichotomy of spirit represents 1 and matter represented by 2 on the diagram given there are in unity with the crossbar 3 signifying the interrelation or the interfacing of the animated entities. Now, spirit descend to interact with matter. This is the real definition of man, or of what is man, which is captured in many alphabetic notation formulated in ancient Africa. More examples on this concept, on the meaning in the origins of the alphabet. You see here the letters V, W, and U. They all are written in as codes to explain the significance, the spiritual fundamentals, or the spiritual layers of what the spirit or the understanding or the brain or the psyche of ancient black ancestors saw and felt and discovered and dished out and codified in form of these symbols. U or V signifies the teachings in an exact manner as they are drawn. The descent of spirit into matter and its ascent out of matter after a period of life on the earth. Now, and it returns into higher dimensions. Our wisest ancestors, the ancient black Egyptians, in developing the sacred writings of hieroglyphics, introduced the W to pluralize many things, and we find that this is not strange, since the W is a letter that pluralizes words even in our modern Bantu languages. This shows that the spirit is descending into you, the human being, and after a period it ascends back into divinity and then comes again back, and the W represents the increase in plurality of the oneness or the one eternal being. How did it all begin? Our ancestors used the most common and easiest of all writing symbols, yet they are packed to the full. These simplest elements of written symbolism consist of the vertical line 1 shown here and the circle. For the wisest black and inspired Egyptians of remote past, the two symbols were a base philosophical foundation which is now copied in many languages, in English, in computers, and in every other form of writing, whether it is demotic or cursive. They cannot escape that. This is the source that gave us everything that we find. It is the Ankh, the first and only symbol for life that was given to the world, came from black Africa. This is undoubtedly and unquestioningly the most ancient of cross symbols of all time. You don't find any other before this. You find thousands and hundreds modifications after this. It is the crux ansata or unzetted cross. Our ancestors called it Ankh, and this word Ankh or Angu is the one that is represented by the symbol shown in the diagram. An O topping an I with a horizontal line at the bottom and at the point of contact. The O above symbolizes the essence and eternal nature of endless existence of the indestructible primordial source of life or source of all things, which in symbolic language is called the Eternal Mother, the one and only originator of all, the one creator who can not have any other, commonly called God today, but below that there exists this singular stroke, the one, which designates how this permeates and releases its divine creative essence or the divine spark into human beings and breath of life into all other entities. And its inspiration of the animus in all things that's created. It is the symbol of it plunging downward across the dimensional lines or limits and crossing over into creating an aggregation of all entities that we see. It also marks the interface point between the two entities, spirit and matter, though this is only one thing in different vibration. But in order for us to understand it, we have to use this dichotomy, we have to use this duality. How wonderful and how great were our wise ancestors. At this point, reality is brought out to manifestation through the union of the two things that emanate from the one. Now, let us now look at the stolen words that came out of this African language into other groups of people. The word English comes from the name of the word Angles or Anglas. English is a West Germanic language. It was first spoken in Anglo-Saxon England in the early Middle Ages. English is now the third most widely spoken language in the world behind Mandarin and Spanish. The central clue to the meaning of all these derivative words we are going to teach today is tied to the tethering of two things or ideas together into a single compound or single entity. It must be expounded that in researching these stolen words using the Ankh branch, the letter H can easily be removed, also leaving the letters KH, which can equally be expressed with K alone or with CH. They are interchangeable in the language that we are going to discuss. Here is the powerful root of those stolen words. It's NK, coming from the word Ankh, and you also can put a G so that you can have the word Angu. Now, it is seen initially in such words as anchor. You see, Ankh is there, that which ties a boat to a fixed place. You go to words like knit, knot, link, knot, gnaw for chewing, gnash for shaking, ankylosis, a growth of two or more bonds, anger, anguish, anxiety, a tightening up of feelings. You see, the word ankh is there, but most interestingly, it seems to have given name to at least 4 joints found on the human body or human torso: ankh, ankle, knee, neck, and knuckles. Lung or arm is that interface where outside air binds to the inner blood. Far away as our English joint appears to be from the source ankh, N being the only letter common to both, it is certainly directly from the word ankh that we've got the root word from Latin jungo, which is a direct word Bantu sungo, which means to join, NK becoming NG through the Greek. From this we get words like junction, adjunct, juncture, conjunction, from the Latin past participle of all these words. We continue with the word ankh. Ankh is that which is created by the union of spirit and matter, a divine conception. The popular word yoga in Sanskrit has an equivalent in Bantu, oga, alone, tied into one, and the only one, which is in reality stands for yega, meaning union, alone, or all alone. The present, the English present participle ending ing, as well as the prefix con, meaning with or together, comes from the word ankh. Now, but coming from through the French, all these words were smoothened down to make them like joined, and this carried far into the English as to give us a final union, which is really a junction in its primordial form. with even the N dropping out, we have the word like yoke, which in Bantu is jogwe, as well as other words also found in Sanskrit and many other languages ending with ing, which connotes the continuing or the moving all things, anking. Therefore, all three parts of the word connecting could be come from the word ank. Our most common word thing likewise comes from ank as a thing which is created by the union of spirit as well as divine conception or divine matter. Let us look at M and N. From M and N, we have hundreds of English and other European words which emerged. Most words that relate to life, including spirit, energy, as it is immersed in matter, are connected with this word M, with these letters M and N. The word for father, Ab, is the reverse of Pa and doubling of Pa, which means you've got an eternal father and you've got a physical father. Baba in Bantu. So the primary matter essence is also a reverse in Hebrew of Am, which is the reverse of the original, which is my for mother. Now, here are some of the ways that embodies God power in matter, which is man. Mn, the divine powers at the summit are unmanifest. Mn, in matter they become manifest. Mn, at the summit there is one but one power undifferentiated. Below in matter it has multiplied itself and become the many. Mn, at the God height the power is purely spiritual. At the lower level it comes out as mental. Mn, spirit above, also spirit below mind. Mn, at the top there is the maximum of power, even though purely potential. At the lower range it is minus. Mn, at minimum. Mn, though actually in its limited expression. A man is the cosmos in miniature. Mn, that which is expressed down here, is in comparison with the superior potential above. Mean also, as here the two places of being are locked in a more or less stable equilibrium are things that are at same equilibrium in Mn or median Mdn, which are in counterbalance, quite poised. Now, there are more words. The Egyptian base root of the letter N, whose hieroglyphic was 7 waves of water, along with the primary deific trinity, Nu, Nan, Nute, gives us all the words expressing negative: no, not, neither, or none, new, nix, German nichts, Latin nox, night, our night, deny, neuter, never, nay, German name, neighbours, etc. These are all examples applied to man and his relative. Nothingness could make him no one. Na, ni. These are all words that came from ancient Africa into English. We have just given here small clues or small evidence of how Africa promoted and still remains the source of almost all languages on earth. Who made up the alphabet? The original alphabet was developed by black African scholars in Africa. They based it on ancient ideas developed by ancestral black people. Others borrowed and modified it. Today they hide this under many layers of lies. Thus, even languages like English, as we have just proved, Latin, German, benefited directly from Africa, but they refused to tell. From ancient times, African writing system, this African writing system was actually sacred, and it was termed Meduneja. It used specific symbols of animals and other created entities and ideals found only in Africa. To simplify the complexity of these loaded hieroglyphics, the maritime ancient blacks who traveled all over the world modified this and gave it to the Greeks. The African alphabet was then quickly adopted by Greek neighbors, Romans, Canaanites, Hebrews, and Phoenicians, who today claim this as theirs. However, we have already shown that this is how English is parenthetically an African language. In conclusion, an omen is a foresight of one's earthly fate. Read reading in Bantu, it is omenya, which means pry open. And the mystifying and baffling ending word we end in prayer, amen, which is actually in Shishona is omene, which means he or she alone. Oro amunu, which means now he has become human. These words are directly from the ancient Egyptian gods. The same name. To hide this, they now say amen means so let it be. But at the same time, they don't realize that they are actually indicating that what is set forth should come to reality in the spiritual purpose and process of life, measured by the descent of the soul into matter, and also rising out of matter, just like we have seen from the letters A to MN. Therefore, in conclusion, our ancestors were and remain the masters of all things academically. Let us praise them daily for their awesome achievements in many, many areas of life. Thank you. Goodbye. Subscribe. Tell others. Challenge us. Put your comments below. Thank you.